Hi everyone, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming, and I see a lot of people here. I think a lot of you have probably come to see why someone is trying to cut the branch they are sitting on. Why is an analytics training company saying analytics training is dead? Is it because yeah. Sorry, just getting the hang of this. So is it because the demand for data science itself is going down? Is it because the demand for analytics is going down? I don't think so. I think everyone here will agree that the demand for analytics, the demand for data-driven thinking, data-driven decision-making continues to increase. So why are we saying analytics training is dead? Do we not need data scientists anymore? Is AI set to take over the entire data science piece and we don't need humans anymore? Thankfully, we are quite some distance away from it. I think that is something that's not going to happen anytime soon. So why exactly am I saying analytics training is dead? Well, let me give you some context. So when we say analytics training is dead, what we are saying is analytics training as we know it is dead. And what do we mean by that? I'll give you some more context. So let me start with the first thing. What is analytics training? So when I say analytics training, what do I mean? What analytics training is this? So a typical analytics training requirement that would come to us, and I'm talking about the last 8 years since we've been running Jigsaw. When a client comes to us, a typical analytics training requirement is that of, it could be a tool-based training, it could be a platform-based training. Someone would want to learn R or Python or SAS or one of those new platforms. Maybe get familiar with H2O, with TensorFlow. So it could be any of those trainings. It could be a skill-based training that the business is looking for. I want my team trained on text mining. I want my team trained on video analytics. I want my team to be able to make sense of image data or audio data. So it could be a skill-based training. It could be a tool-based training, but that is typically what the analytics training requirement is. Who is it for? Who are the people who are getting trained? Well, typically it's the data science team that resides within the business. They have a set of skills and the business wants them to augment their skills and maybe pick up new skills. For some of the companies that are just starting off on analytics, especially a lot of the Indian businesses, it could be the IT team which has been working with data, but now they want them to actually analyze that data and produce insights from it. So it could be the data science team, it could be the IT team, it could be anyone else HR finds walking around in the corridor and say, okay, if you have time, why don't you join this training? But that's essentially what we mean when we say who gets trained. And where do they get trained? Earlier it was all classroom-based training. They would be in a training room, they would be in a classroom, and they would get trained there. Now with teams being more geographically spread, we are doing a lot of online classes as well. So it could be a live online environment in which the people are learning, or it could be just a learning management system that they are working on. So it could be self-paced video, self-paced learning that they could be doing. How do they get trained? Again, the typical training request is for a fairly rigid curriculum. These are the set of things, these are the set of skills that we want people to get trained on. If it's a live classroom environment, then it could be a 3 to 5 day training program. We will put everyone into the classroom. We will have 3 days. You teach them for 8 hours, 9 hours, and they will, over the 3 days or the 5 days, they will learn the set of skills that we have mapped out for them at the start. If it's an online training, it could be shorter sessions of 2 to 3 hours spread over a few months. So I'm sure all of you here are familiar with this kind of training. This is what analytics training has been for the last many years, and this is the training that we feel is this is the analytics training as we know it, and this is surely dead. So I will pass the mic to Sayan.
Okay, so before you go deeper into it, if you're wondering, kind of, therefore, what is the proposition, what we are talking about, let's understand a little bit of the why, kind of what's happening around us. And, I'm definitely not going to, pitch to the choir. I'm sure all of you guys have heard this many a times. But few things, which is very important. And this is all leading to the fact that analytics training, as we all know it, is dead, is what we are claiming. So data is increasingly cheap. It is ubiquitous. It is all around us. I'm sure you're tired of hearing this term, data is the new oil. It's no longer the new oil. It's, I think, becoming a little older. All kind of statistics around it, right? 90% of the data that we have in the world today is created in the last 3 months. And I'm sure this timeline is only going to become shorter because everything around us is available in some form that I can really leverage, right? So everything is digital. Technology at the same time is allowing us not only to store this amount of data, but also to crunch it and therefore glean some insights out of it, which is also a very important factor. As a result of which, kind of slowly there is an emergence of this concept of even a citizen data scientist. So what we mean is the training that was catered to probably a kind of a group of people, to some of the experts and to a kind of a smaller group. Now probably everyone, and definitely the people in this room for sure, but every other people in your organization probably need to get kind of data smart. They need to get up to speed on leveraging data and leveraging analytics. So that is really the context, that is the background. Now in that world, what do we need to do, right? I mean, it cannot be the the way the training has been thought about and what we have done. So how are we looking at it differently? So let's look about kind of the way forward. Gaurav?
So a digital society demands that every citizen that is part of that society is data literate. What I mean by that is everyone who's part of this digital society understands data and can make sense of this data. Data literacy is a key skill. It is very important for competitive advantage, for agility within the organization, for the individual itself. And I go back to the concept that you will all be familiar with, ESL, English as a second language. This was a concept that was popularized a long time ago. I think this is being replaced by ISL, information as a second language, which means that every one of us has to have the skills to be able to deal with data. Every one of us has to be data literate. Within a business, it is no longer enough for data savviness, data skills to be within a small silo within an organization. Everyone has to be a part of this revolution. Everyone has to be comfortable working with data. And how do you do that? There are a few things that an organization needs to do when they try to build this data capability. Cultural transformation is a key part of it. As I said, knowledge about data cannot reside within silos in an organization. Everyone has to talk the language of data. When someone is presenting a hypothesis, when someone is trying to present a strategy, it has to be backed with data. And if it's not backed with data, then people have to question it. What that means is that data has to be embedded within the DNA of the organization, within the within the culture of the organization. And the only way to do this is to start at the top. The top management has to be convinced about the power of data and how it can affect their business. But that is not enough. If it's just the top management, that is not enough. It has to then percolate down to the lowest levels of the organization, which means right from the top to the bottom, everyone has to be convinced about the data-driven culture. I come from an organization, one of the organizations that I worked in the past, where every decision from the color of the conference rooms to the food in the cafeteria, everything was data-driven. There was not a single decision made which was not backed by data, and that's the kind of level that we want to reach to. And this is not possible just by a cultural transformation. It has to be done in conjunction with skill augmentation, which means that everyone has to develop these skills. Now, not everyone needs the same level of skills, the same kind of skills. how an HR person uses analytics, the kind of data they have and what they do with that data is going to be very different from how a marketing person uses analytics. So that distinction has to be made. You have to break down your audience. You have to segment your audience. You have to align them to the roles that the job roles that they are expected to fulfill, and what are the skills that they need to fulfill those job roles. Which means that you have to do a competency mapping for the entire organization. You have to see what are the different segments within the organization, employee segments, what kind of skills do they need to be able to deliver on their roles, and how do you then create custom learning paths for these people. So each of these groups will have a different start point and a different end point. So you need to have a custom learning path that can help them on this journey. And ultimately, your entire training has to be mapped to this competency framework that you develop. So I think this is about skill augmentation. Another very important thing that organizations are realizing is the contextualization. It is very, very important for you to be able to contextualize the skills for your learner. What I mean by that is teaching someone how to use data without telling them how it would be used in their particular role, how it will help them deliver on their role better, is never going to meet your purpose. It is very, very important for everyone who's learning to understand why are they learning this and how is it going to help them in doing their job better, in helping their organization grow. The 70-20-10 approach is a great example of this. The 70-20-10 approach essentially says that 10% of your learning is formal. That is what happens in a classroom. That is what happens in a training environment. 20% of your learning is social. This is what happens when you interact with your peers and your colleagues. And 70% of your learning is experiential, which means that this learning is never going to be complete till the learner actually starts using the skills that they've picked up in the training and actually start working on projects and delivering on that. What this means is that if you do a training for your organization and it's not followed by each and every learner taking up some challenging assignment where they get a chance to apply the learnings that they've picked up in the training, unless you do that, the training's not going to be successful. So this approach is what we are calling training 2.0. This is not just analytics training, this is capability build.
Thanks, Gaurav. Okay, so I think you're getting the picture of where we are getting to, right? We are talking about analytics training, as you all understand, is dead, because the focus in our mind should be on capability build. And I know many a times it starts with the context of capability build, but for some reason it boils down to saying I need training on R, or I need kind of training on Python, or things like that, right? So so let's kind of break that out a little more. I know Gaurav talked a lot about how you think about training, how do you think about skill augmentation, how do you think about contextualization is very, very important. How do you do the 70-20-10? I mean, kind of the whole training that we are talking about is 10, and then there is 70, which is really doing stuff, right, in a more structured manner and figuring out. So the story is that the capability build is not just about the skill augmentation, it is about some other things, right? And I'm going to introduce this, kind of the 4S. I know many people here are tired of hearing all these 4 Ps and 5 S and 3 Ts and whatnot. But I cannot help but introduce this, because this is where this whole capability build as a concept kind of lies, right? So what else other than skill? So there is a concept of select, and I'll obviously dive a little deeper into each of them. There is something around solve, and there is something around socialize, right? So the 3 or the 4 S's here are select, skill, solve, and socialize. I think we talked enough about skill, and kind of this is what Gaurav and Jigsaw has been obviously doing and transforming for a while. Let's highlight on a few other things, right, which together forms this whole capability build story. And what are they, and how do they play a role? Let's look at select. So I'm going to focus on select, solve, and socialize, and really bring you up to speed. No rocket science here. I'm sure many of you know this, do it in parts, but how do you think of it as a framework and holistically? Okay, so when you say select, all that I mean is that, while we build skills, right, which is around, hardware, software, problems and things like that, it is very important to select a few things right, to decide on what to do and what not to do. And that is where, a lot of the journeys gets, kind of in a wrong path. So how do you select a right problem that you want to solve? Sounds very trivial, kind of there is business, there are problems, but no, most of the time there are plenty of problems. Which one you want to focus on now, which one you want to do later, what criteria to be applied. So selecting a right business problem is very important, and that has to be practiced and learned. Selecting the right data for those business problems. A lot of people, you all know this fact that, a lot of the core work in analytics is obviously getting more and more automated. There are enough tools, there are enough technology, which is taking the burden off, kind of crunching the data and doing stuff. So where do our, contribution lies? Our contribution lies in, really thinking the problem right, in thinking about what are the different data that can be brought into play. Someone mentioned it that you almost have to create new business if need be to, kind of generate data, to get data. So this is very important, right? Sometimes we, trivialize it and say, oh, all the data that is stored there, let me go and use it. No, you have to think about it very carefully. And needless to say, given the plethora of, kind of tools out there, what is happening on the technology side, it is important that we select the right tools for our purpose, not because something is trendy, something is out there, but what my environment can support, and definitely what are the right techniques. And by this I mean the application of, math, OR, or stats, whatever you are doing. So what are the right ones to use? So selecting each of them right is a very, very important part of this overall capability that you want to build. Because even, I'm sure you've seen many cases, somebody is very skilled, they're very good at, kind of knowing, how to do a generalized linear model, using Python on a very large set of data. But the problem is not getting solved, right? At the end of the day, there is a solution that we need to get it. That is not, probably because, kind of select, this, the whole ability to select is missing. Let's highlight on the thing that you also need to do, right, once you have built the skill. I already talked about problem definition from a solve perspective. How do you not only select the right problem, but define it right, which is very, very important. How do you really design the right solution, right? Solution design is so much more of an art and then not just the science, right? It is not about just running the algorithms. It is about a lot more. It is about how do you bring, kind of the right data together, and it is about how do you, kind of go about really finding a solution. How do you do it in an agile mode? How do you, create something in the first few weeks and then, slowly build your overall solution? So solution design is very critical in this path of solve. And needless to say, kind of how do you really analyze? And what I mean by here is not, again, not the technique part, which you have already talked about. And it is about, some of the best practices. How do you analyze data? How do you look at it? Very, very important that, how do you really get these results that you are creating out to the audience? How do you present it right? How do you do the right storyboarding? How do you generate the right insights? Some of the things in, kind of today, as we, go deeper into data science, talk about a lot of fancy stuff out there, I think sometimes gets missed out. And believe me, kind of with all these years that I have been trying to do something in this field, I see many a times the gaps are in some of these, not necessarily in terms of, the algorithm or the tool or the technology, they're probably doing everything right. So finally, kind of how do you ensure that this work that gets done will actually be consumed, right? People will actually take it. Extremely critical. We need to think about that upfront. And this is a capability, by the way, right? It's not enough to say, I have data, I have a problem, I have solved the problem, right? Now you figure out what you want to do. So if I am, kind of owning that solution, it is very important that I think about the final, kind of the consumption of that. And that's, kind of what we, kind of do iteratively, because if you figure out that there's a problem at the last mile on the consumption, then you come back and design the solution differently or define the problem differently. So that's something that I thought is very important, that you select a few things right, you build the right skills in an experiential manner, you, kind of know how to solve a problem. And then finally, what I talked about, the consumption and feedback, leads to a very important aspect of socializing, right? I'm sure many of the purists and many of the hardcore data scientists would say, what are you talking about? That's not, kind of my role. But believe me, that is where the real value is established when you really socialize, and I'm talking about obviously in a enterprise context, right, where it is not just you, it is many other people who are going to be touched by that solution who is going to implement. So how do you make, kind of, the consumers or who are going to use that analysis, you are building a, some kind of a recommender engine, there are people who are going to finally go and implement it. How do you make them your champions? How do you, kind of quantify the impact of this one? It is not enough to say that I've used the best technique, it is giving me great lift, that's fine, but how do you really quantify the kind of the impact that is going to create? And then clearly, kind of buy-in. I'm sure many of you think, what is that? Kind of, unless you have the right buy-in, believe me, it will remain a cool algorithm that is, kind of written in a nice piece of, and maybe stored somewhere in the GitHub. Or, kind of maybe, kind of creating a good, great deck, great presentation, but nothing after that. So that's, kind of the world that we are talking about in terms of, kind of socialize. So select, skill, solve, socialize, all the four has to play together to, kind of really bring this capability build to life, right? I mean, that is a point that I wanted to make. So let's, kind of just look at, let's summarize all of these and then see, kind of what are probably a few takeaways. I'm sure, kind of all of us are in this, all sessions, sometimes looking for, kind of what can I take away, what can I go and implement. So there are these 5 golden rules that, kind of we thought about, and I think Gaurav can take us through that.
Yeah, so these are what we call the 5 commandments if you are looking to build analytics capability within your organization. The first commandment, data is a life skill. Data is not a niche skill. Data is not a skill that should reside within a small team within your organization. Everyone has to talk the language of data. Data is a life skill. Information is your competitive advantage. All businesses are realizing that information is the biggest competitive advantage they can have, especially in today's world. Information is, and the use of information effectively is what differentiates a good business, a great business from a good business. Data-driven decision-making cannot happen in silos. I have worked with enough organizations now to realize that if you are just looking at building a small data science team, even if they are the most, the most experienced, the best data scientists you can get, if you are building a small silo within your organization, it's not going to work out. Everyone has to talk the language of data. Everyone has to understand that data-driven decisions are indeed better decisions. Analytics training is not enough. Again, coming from an analytics company, analytics training company, this is a bold statement, but this is what we have seen across multiple clients. Just training by itself is not enough. It has to be complemented with the 4S framework. You have to talk about selecting the right problem, skilling your people, solving the problem, and socializing it. Again, cannot overemphasize the importance of socializing the results. Part of what we do in our trainings when we engage with businesses is, looking at one of the metrics that we look at is how many requests are coming to their IT team or the data science team post the training. Have we been able to excite people about this, and are they reaching out to other teams? Are they reaching out to their colleagues to ask for more analytics? So this is essentially the the 5 commandments we have. We feel the analytics training as we've known it over the last 10 years is truly dead and buried. We feel the time of we came, we trained, we left, that time has gone. That doesn't work now. Now it's the time for analytics capability build, which is a lot more strategic and truly transformative for the organization. Thank you. So far you've from people who've been who've been helping businesses build the analytics capability. What we wanted to do is have you hear directly from a business about how they've gone about and done this. So we have Chathuranga here from MAS from Sri Lanka. He's come to to talk about his experience. Chathuranga, please.
Thank you, Gaurav. Good morning, everyone. Right, so I think this is my second Cypher experience. Last year we came here One question was asked by some of the people outside was, we thought this was Indian conference, and I think no, it's international, because we come from Sri Lanka here to learn from your experience, because you have gone miles ahead on this data science journey. So we are very young, but progressively coming up on this journey, but we don't want to go, we want to learn from the best, and we want to learn from your experiences and where you have gone wrong, where you have succeeded, so we won't take a longer path. So our requirement is shorter period, the right way of implementing data science. So last year we came, and this year it's very exciting to present our journey in front of you. And I think this story, what I would be sharing, maybe answering some of the questions we had yesterday. The questions around, do I hire a data scientist? What is data science? Is AI the only thing that we can pursue it? Are we moving from descriptive to AI? How fast we go? So, and apart from that, how do you really create a culture around data is what we've been trying to do. And this team realizes that what we are doing there at MS Holdings resonates with the 5 commandments which was presented earlier. So let me briefly tell you about what MS Holdings is. We are the largest apparel manufacturer in South Asia. We have 53 facilities across 15 nations, and we are powered with 97,000 plus workforce. So yesterday, there on the comedy it says HR is cutting cake. For us, it's not. For us, it's about strategic HR. We are managing 97,000 people, and we've just crossed $1.8 billion in revenue. And also, we have 30 years of manufacturing experiences behind us. So every day we come to work, all of us, to inspire, innovate, and create value and respect humanity. That is what we live by. We will always live by where we go on that. And today, we are the largest supplier for Victoria's Secret, Nike, Lululemon, Gap, and Triumph and Speedo across the globe. And you might have touched and feel Amante in India, so that is a MS brand. So let me briefly tell you about why we are getting into analytics. Right, we started in 1985 with 50-man factory, the chairman, Mr. Mahesh Amalian, and his brothers. So we came a long journey with a lot of partnerships, and in 2000, we got a similar concepts or similar idea about this data or digital like that in those days, which is called lean manufacturing. So our teams went to Japan, learned lean manufacturing, and we embraced lean manufacturing. So lean is our culture, our DNA. We walk, we go waste walking, we do problem solving, and continuous improvement is what we always talk about. So when we came on the lean journey, there was a period that we want to embrace the other competitive advantages like innovation, building innovation capabilities across the organization which can help our consumers, and automation to improve our efficiency. So during 2012 and up to 2012, we did backward forward integration, nearshore, offshore. Proud to say we are producing garments in US now from this year. We have moved the operational excellence curve. So there's a linear growth in operational excellence, but now we see there's an exponential opportunity. That exponential opportunity is coming through digital. So our future is going to be digital, and for digital, we need to build capabilities. So digital means data, and if you are not using data to make meaning or make outcomes, we would not be competitively advantaged. So as we go around the 2021, where we want to be is an AI-enabled manufacturer. We want to move from siloed linear manufacturing to adaptive manufacturing, which cut across the whole value chain. And we are going to do dynamic fulfillment, which is one click, one supply, B2C from vendors to direct to consumer, and we are in the journey of monetizing our 30 years of manufacturing experience, and we will be supporting micro multinationals. So this is why we need analytics and digital capabilities within our organization. So there is a larger purpose for analytics at MAS. So in a very brief way, I will explain to you what I feel as data science and what MAS, as a person who leads data science at MAS, believes. So there is these two things, right? There is data and there's science. So we all talked about data yesterday, and there's unstructured, structured, all these data is there lying on the processors. And there's science. The science is what we learned in when we were very young in school days. It is about finding a problem, defining an experiment, doing it, and coming to a conclusion and implementing it. But from that 7th grade till till 30 to 20 years, we have not used science. In our education, science was not part of it. We were taught to do things, we were taught to do exams, but science was taken out. So we are combining these two together at MAS, saying you have data, if anybody is using it scientifically, and that's going to help you to make better decisions, that's data science for us, in a very simple context. So it's even a pie chart is data science for us, even algorithm or AI algorithm is data science for us. So how did we go about last 3 years creating this culture? So as I mentioned to you earlier, our HR is not cake cutting HR, we are strategic HR. So where we started analytics was in HR, right? So this is a very funny equation for all the consultants who engage with MS. Why the hell you start at analytics at HR, right? So we normally do at marketing, or so we started at the heart of our value addition. Our heart of value addition is 91,000 workforce on the shop floor, the manufacturing workforce. So we had to do something for them to make their life easy, make their earnings greater, make the productivity come through that needle point. So when we went about this journey, how we went about is what resonates today as a successful story for me to share with you. So when we started analytics, we didn't talk about predictive analytics, we just went to the areas of HR to see how they do stuff. So we asked what are their problems, and as soon as they told the problems, we saw they are not using right data. They are not using connected data. They are not visualizing their data so that it can make their life easy. So we sat there with them months, weeks, or even years to help them structure and make their life easy, the structure the data. So it's about nothing high tech, it's Excel sheets, it's SharePoint, and it's OneDrive. So we structured whatever the data that was everywhere into one place, and we gave them power with data through a self-service BI. So we are the earliest adopter of Power BI probably in this region. We started in 2015, and what is the benefit we gave was zero reporting, right? That was the greatest win for everybody. So as soon as you structure data, you connect it to a self-service BI, their reporting became zero. So we saved their 2 hours to zero. So they started loving analytics. So everybody said, why don't you come to our department? Why don't you come to our organization? So every month we had a request. So based on that, the management saw the power. We got the management buy-in. We expanded the team. So today I have 30 members working on analytics from 2 members. And we started exponentially training self-service BI. We have 600 Power BI users now. And we build a data science team, which is we have a central team today. So this is how we kind of brought the culture into it. So at MAS, I said I'm talking about HR. We have a competency framework. We have 44 job families, 1,200 unique jobs. For each of these unique jobs, we have a job profile and a competency framework. So we have 2 types of competencies. One is called professional competency, which everybody should have. The other one is technical competency, where based on your job role you will have. So we found this very interesting professional competency at MAS, which is called analytical skills. So this was supposed to be everybody's skill. Every executive, we have 8,500 executives, has to have this skill. So when we really read the fine line, So at level 3, you are supposed to create logical implications to predict possible consequences, right? So this is data science for me, right? But at our organization, it was more about people who are good at Excel was marked at level 5. So now we are rechanging it, relooking at this. Now we are using this framework. So at level 5, you are doing complex problem solving, what we talked yesterday about AI and all this algorithmic stuff. So on technical competency, yesterday somebody asked, should I hire a data scientist? No, we are not hiring data scientists only. For our technical capabilities, this is the 6 roles we have identified. So myself is a data evangelist who talk about data and getting people on board. So we have data engineers who structure data and help us to do that. We have data architects who solution the data. And we have hired the first data scientist after 4 years of this journey last month. And we have a data artist who creates stuff visually appealing to people. And we have number of data analysts. So with this team, we have a purpose. We know why we do analytics at MAs. We are doing it for 6 reasons. We want to move to Industry 4.0, which is a data smart factory. We want to keep improving talent analytics, which is people analytics. Consumer analytics is going to be big because we are going from B to C. And data-driven design is going to change the game for us to work with any brand we work with. And AI enablement will be our next game changer to move to adaptive manufacturing, and capacity building is how I and my team keep on coaching, keep on training the rest of the group in the organization. So we talk about numbers. Yesterday somebody asked how many in the team we should have, and this is the number of data team that we are going to have within next 3 years. So we have Power BI developers, we had 0, now we have 400, and we are moving it up to 1,000 by 2021. We have analytics community who does analytics stuff. We have 8 now, and we are moving it to 90. And we have a central team, that is my team, which started with 2 interns. Now we have 7, and we are going it up to only 10. So the central team is going to be maximum 10. And data smart executives, we have about 100 now. We want to make it 5,000. And people on the shop floor who really solve problems, they need to be data smart and enabled on their fingertips. And we need 50,000 out of 91,000 to be that. So this is the numbers game, and this is the scale that we are looking at. And it's not about the core, right? So we think data is going to change how we do things. And we have a purpose, so we are building capability. As Gaurav rightly said, it's about capability building, because whatever we say, somebody has to use it. And if they are not using it, there's no point we are giving solutions. And if we should not be the people who will go and say, look, you can do this, you can do this. They should be the people who can come and ask us, can we do this? So lean has become our DNA today. We talk about problem solving and continuous improvement across the. So by 2021, our expectation is the people on the shop floor will ask, can you do a clustering? Can you do a segmentation? Can we do optimization? Can you do a visualization? I want the team members on the ground to come and ask management that question. So this is how we are going about it. So if you are to start analytics in an organization, right? So there is these 3 things that you need to start building. And it's not going to happen overnight, and we have done it over 30 years, right? So the vision and purpose for analytics, I think it's very clear for you. MAS has a real good vision why you need analytics on what we do, what we want to do strategically for the future. So it's easy to align leadership. Look, you want to do adaptive manufacturing, it's about data structures, it's about analytics. So if you don't invest today, you are not going to get adaptive manufacturing. So they are very clear about it. And this lean DNA is helping data science enormously, because lean talks about problem solving. So when you say problem solving, root cause analysis, data and structured data to solve problems continuously. And we invested in innovation culture. So there's an opportunity to challenge the status quo, do things differently, Anybody can come up to the leadership and say what you are doing is wrong. So this is a great enabler for data science. So that is the culture that is going to help us here. And the last piece is ability to build capability. So you need to have a proper framework, a learning organization. Myself has not done anything related to statistics or data science. I'm a finance graduate, but my organization gave me opportunity to learn this. So we are coming to conferences, we are tapping into LinkedIn, YouTube to learn Power BI. So our organization, learning organization. As you learn, they appreciate. So all of us are really geared to learn. So it is a competency-based skilling and as well as a learning organization. So when we looked around last year, the real gain for me from Cypher was the learnings you have shared over 5 years, as well as the meeting of Jigsaw Academy, because we felt the thinking they have, which was presented earlier, is aligned to the thinking that we have. So we wanted a partner who's on a platform, who's scalable to our needs, and also who thinks alike, so we can do customized solution programs next year. So this is basically how we believe we can move to the next level, and I hope I have answered some of the questions that was everybody is trying to answer yesterday about data science, AI, and the size of the team. So we will wrap up this session basically with this case study, and I will open the whole audience for some questions. We have about 3 to 4 minutes for the questions. Thank you very much.
So if you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll have a mic passed on.
Hi. My question is that AI-enable adaptive manufacturing. Would you please just shed a light a little bit on this?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So AI-driven adaptive manufacturing is basically in general manufacturing value stream, we have silos. We have the supplier, and it comes to manufacturing. So you have the processing, and then you have the delivery and the to the consumer. Inside a factory, you also have 5 or 6 departments doing various stuff and passing the product from one area to another area. So historically, in manufacturing, what happens is we optimize each of these silos, right? So when you say adaptive manufacturing, it's about solving one problem through a networked solution. So networked solution means you need to see consumer demand, and you need to have your planning tool that is connected to consumer demand, and then you need to connect supply chain which can supply you on a speed. So this cannot happen through a normal PO purchase ecosystem. This can only happen through if we are a network. So we are moving the words even supplier and customer. We are making a partnered network which is digitally connected, so it creates these decisions much faster than how we do it. So adaptive manufacturing is we are allowing the processes and operations to change based on the dynamic demand on the consumer side.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Silky. I'm from Course 5 Intelligence. You said it's important to build a professional competency along with technical competition. So when you build this data smart team, how do you go about it? Like, do you teach them statistical know-how first, like what is cluster analysis, what is segmentation, or how, or show them case studies how when we do this and it has valued other teams? How do you, what is the roadmap of building that technical competency or the data smart team when you said?
Yeah, so I'll decode this. Technical competency counts for data science team. The professional competency counts for every other team. So I think question is around every other team. So basically we are going to solve their problem. We are not going to solve our problem. We'll ask first question is, as a function, what are you supposed to do? What is your metric? How are you optimizing it? And what data do you use? Is it accessible to you? Is it somewhere else? Is it visual to you? If I give you this data in this format, will it make sense to you? So that is how we kind of make an inroad. So that is why we use Power BI. So as soon as you give visualization, they start structuring data. So after
I can add a little bit to this because we've done this with multiple organizations. So one of the key things that you need to understand is at the very start, you first need to convince people about the need for data-driven decision making. And people are very comfortable with gut-based decisioning. And I think any data smart program that you have, it has to first start by showing the traps that the human mind can fall into and the kind of decisions that gut-based decisions that we can make which are wrong or incomplete. Once you do that, then the audience is convinced about the need for data-driven decision making. That's when you get them into data-driven decision making and how do you use analytics. And within that, a couple of areas which are very challenging, and this is through our experience of working with several organizations. People who are, again, the general audience, people who are not within the data science team or don't aspire to be data scientists, but want to use data more effectively. There are a couple of areas that they face, that they find particularly challenging. As an example, any HR professional or a marketing professional who's not really trying to become a data scientist will most likely not learn Python or R. They will give up, they will start, but they will give up after a week, after 2 weeks, after a month. So something like Power BI is a tool which is very effective and does not have that steep learning curve that R and Python have. So it is very important to select the right tool. It is very important to select the right problems. Like Chaturanga said, you have to have problems that the person can relate to. If you are a marketing person and I'm telling you manufacturing problems, it's not going to get you excited. So those, there are a few things that are very important. And I think if you want a more detailed discussion, you can definitely come to our stall. We have people who've been working on this program.
Thank you.
See, at the top level, management level, what was the data points in terms of gains? Is it an ROI? Or what kind of things you really gained so far in your journey of last 3-4 years and going forward? What do you anticipate?
So our whole 3 equations today is about being agile. So agile manufacturability is one thing that's demanded, and speed. So we have to cut the speed to consumer. So we are measured on 3 things on this data science journey. How do you bring flexibility, which is going to come through optimization and simulation, and how do you bring speed, that is bringing data visibly, so you make smarter decisions faster, so you make this process speed. And the last one is, with data analytics, can we make ourselves more productive? So which also feels through data and analytics we can do more productive manufacturing. So these are the 3 drivers which drives us. For the moment, the gain is on visualization and having the data for right decision making, so people appreciate it.
Just the last point, I think Chaturanga is talking about.
Say I'm in your board. I want you to give me a number. How much do you gain?
Sorry?
Say I'm in your board. I want you to give a number. You are giving qualitative statement.
Yes.
I want you to give a number.
Yeah, so basically we are going on continuous improvement journey. So our target set from the leadership is 50% improvement in productivity in 3 years. So we are saying with data and analytics we can help you in this journey, but quantification is a subjective matter based on different manufacturing units we have.
So sorry guys, this was the last question we could take. We've really run out of time. But we are, all 3 of us are available outside, through the day. So if you have any other questions, if you want to have any discussion, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.